Hey, all right, we're looking at Acts chapter 15, and in this chapter we see Paul and the Jewish leaders, Peter and all those guys, starting to deal with the circumcision issue. And really they were dealing with, I guess, Jewish converts at the time. And so there was this thing where they had gone around to the Gentiles, and they were coming to know Jesus, becoming Christians, and then other followers of Jesus were coming in and saying, well, who were Jewish followers, but also Jewish Christians, I guess you'd call them, were coming in and saying, you guys need to be circumcised, you need to follow Abraham's law, and the Gentiles were really, they had never lived under that stuff, so they didn't understand why this was necessary. So they're dealing with this issue, this sort of new church conflict that's going on. And something that's interesting to notice is as it's going through that, they give several, I guess, rules or what they think is important and that the Gentiles do need to be following. I'm going to read from the study Bible here. Circumcision was not required, but 4 stipulations were laid down. These involved areas of Gentile weakness that particularly repulsed Jewish believers. It would have helped both the individual and the relationship between Gentile and Jew if these requirements had been observed. So it's kind of this idea of they need to follow these in order to sort of, it's almost like what we do in youth group, humbling ourselves, wearing clothes that won't offend, that kind of stuff, humbling ourselves so we can get along in a sense. And that's a big church principle, really. They involve divine directives that the Jews believed were given before the Mosaic Law. Gentiles were to abstain from food polluted by idols. So the idea here was that if you're eating food that had been sacrificed to idols, you were sort of taking in part in these pagan rituals. So they didn't want them doing that. Sexual immorality, a sin taken too lightly by the Greeks and also associated with certain pagan religious festivals. The meat of strangled animals, those retaining the blood, that was forbidden to be eaten. And eating blood, a practice that was expressly forbidden under Jewish law. So this idea of really what they're eating, it goes beyond sort of what's kosher to the point of what is being offered in pagan rituals and that kind of stuff. We'll see Paul come and Peter have sort of a conflict, a butting of heads of this later, especially in Galatians 2, and if you want to look ahead, also 1 Corinthians sort of talks about this as well. You also notice in this chapter you have sort of the first letter, and you also see what I think is amazing in the Bible is real honesty about where the people are, and that was where Paul and Barnabas actually split ways because they actually have a conflict, and they ultimately have to split ways. So that's a little overview of Acts 15. Keep reading because I'll keep making videos.